Has anyone ever truly prepared you for what life feels like? After 80, crossing into this chapter isn't marked by just slower mornings or birthday milestones. It carries with it a quiet transformation that many never speak about. It's a season rich in reflection, yet touched by absence, a time of stillness, but also unexpected loneliness. And if you aren't ready for these deeper shifts, they can leave you feeling unsettled, wondering why no one ever mentioned what this stage is really like. This video gently explores 5 of the toughest truths about life after 80, not to create fear and not to cause sadness, but to bring clarity. Because once you see these changes for what they are, they no longer have power over you. You can face them with preparation and, more importantly, with strength. We'll talk about friendships fading without notice, a body that doesn't recover like it used to, the quiet discomfort of needing help, the subtle ways society stops seeing you, and the ache that lingers when old memories meet too much empty time. Please stay with us until the end, because within these hard truths lies something quietly beautiful, the power to choose how you meet them, with acceptance, with resilience, and with the kind of grace that lets you shape this final season with meaning in a way only you can define. Let's begin. Together. Number 1, a social circle that quietly disappears. One of the earliest changes that often goes unnoticed after turning 80 isn't physical, it's emotional and social. It's not about aching knees or a slower pace. It's the quiet fading of familiar voices. The phone that once rang often sits silent. Friends who used to drop by no longer do. Longtime neighbors move away. And sometimes, the people who once called every Sunday now forget what day it is. It's not done out of neglect. It's not because you're any less important. It's just that time moves forward, and people move with it. Some are caught up in their own aging. Some are dealing with their health, and others, well, they simply aren't here anymore. This shift doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly. One missed call becomes 2. One lunch gets postponed, then forgotten. You wake up one morning and realize the days feel quieter, not just in sound, but in connection. In your 60s or even 70s, there's still movement, still energy, still gatherings. But after 80, there's a turning point. You start to outlive the people who knew your stories, who understood your silence, who remembered your laughter. And that's not something anyone warns you about. I remember a man named Howard, Aga 83. He used to meet his friends at the park bench near the bakery every Thursday. No plans were needed, they just knew. But over the years, fewer showed up. One moved to a care facility, one stopped driving, another passed away quietly. One day, Howard sat there alone, holding 2 cups of coffee just in case someone came. "It's strange," he said softly, "how life gets quieter not just in sound, but in who's still around to hear it." That kind of loneliness doesn't always shout. It doesn't always bring tears. Sometimes it's just the silence after dinner, the empty second chair at breakfast, the feeling that fewer people truly know who you are, and even fewer ask. But here's the hopeful part. Understanding this reality gives you the power to respond. You can reach out, even when others don't. You can start new conversations, not because it replaces the old ones, but because your voice still deserves to be heard. Connection, after 80, is no longer accidental. It must be intentional, whether it's joining a local group, writing letters, calling someone you miss, or simply sitting next to someone new. These small steps matter. They remind you and the world that your story isn't over, that your presence still adds warmth to the room, that even if your circle shrinks, your heart hasn't, and the courage to connect, you already have it. You've lived decades. You've weathered storms. Reaching out now, that's not weakness. That's wisdom in motion. Number 2, a body that stops bouncing back. By the time you reach your 80s, your body begins to speak more directly. The gentle signals you use to brush off now come with more weight. Minor aches no longer vanish overnight. Fatigue doesn't always lift after a nap. And what surprises many people is this: after 80, even small health issues can feel like major turning points. You might start your day feeling normal, a little slower, perhaps, but steady. Then, out of nowhere, something shifts. A dizzy spell, a cough that lingers, a sore leg you don't remember hurting. Suddenly, you find yourself sitting in a doctor's office, hearing words like precaution, monitoring, or overnight stay. What once would have passed with rest now demands attention. And the hardest part, the uncertainty. You can eat well, stay active, get plenty of sleep, and still feel like your body has plans you didn't approve. A small trip on the steps can take weeks to recover from. A mild illness can leave you wiped out far longer than expected. And when you do get better, you may not return to the way things were. Your balance might be slightly off. Your muscles don't respond like they used to. The bounce back, that quick recovery you once counted on, just doesn't come the same way anymore. I once met a woman named Clara. She was 81, bright-eyed, active, and proud of her independence. She loved working in her garden, took daily walks, and stayed engaged with her local book club. But one afternoon, while pruning her rose bush, she stumbled. It wasn't a bad fall, no broken bones, just a bruise. But the recovery wasn't what she expected. I thought I just needed a few days of rest, Clara said. But those few days turned into weeks. I lost strength. I lost energy. And I lost a bit of confidence, too. She paused and added, "It wasn't the fall that changed me. It was what came after." That's the truth most people never say out loud. After 80, rest doesn't always restore sometimes. It slowly reduces. And even when you're careful, your body still chooses its own pace. You begin to understand that bouncing back isn't always possible. But adapting forward, that's where your strength shows up. You start to honor your energy more wisely. You pace your day not because you're weak, but because you've earned the right to move with care. You begin to treat your health not as a given, but as a commitment. You walk slower but with more awareness. You rest more but with purpose. And you stop fighting the changes. And instead, you find a rhythm that respects who you are now. Because even when the bounce is gone, grace remains. Patience deepens. Resilience grows in new forms. You may not move the way you used to, but your spirit still stands tall. If you've made it this far and this second truth speaks to you, please comment the number 2 below just to let me know you're still here, listening, and walking this journey with us. And if you haven't already, tap the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next video created to help you stay strong, connected, and inspired. We're grateful for you. Let's keep moving forward together. Number 3, a growing need for help. No matter how strong or self-reliant you are, aging brings with it a quiet shift. And one of the hardest changes to face after 80 is this: you begin needing help in places where you never needed it before. It doesn't happen all at once. It arrives softly, almost unnoticeably. You might start reaching for the countertop for balance. You avoid the top shelf because stretching feels risky. You think twice before driving on a rainy evening, and while part of you still feels capable, another part gently reminds you, this isn't as easy as it used to be. What makes this change so challenging isn't just the physical part, it's the emotional one. Because for decades, you were the one holding others up. You worked hard, raised families, made decisions, solved problems. You were the helper. And now needing help, that can feel deeply uncomfortable. Some people begin to feel like they're becoming a burden. Others quietly hide what they can no longer manage. They skip the store because they're afraid of slipping. They don't mention the fall they had last week. They try to change a light bulb even when their shoulder has been hurting for months. Because asking for help feels like giving something up. But here's the truth, needing help doesn't mean you've lost your independence. It means you've reached a point in life where wisdom must guide effort. In real strength, the kind that lasts, knows when to let go of pride. I once met a man named Raymond, 86. He had always done everything himself, built his own workshop, repaired his own car. He never asked for favors. But one winter, he slipped on a patch of ice outside his mailbox. No broken bones, but a long pause. He didn't tell his son, didn't want anyone to worry. But his daughter-in-law noticed he seemed slower. She began dropping by once a week with a small bag of groceries. At first, he resisted. "I'm fine," he'd say. But over time, her visits became something he looked forward to. Eventually, he admitted something that surprised even himself. "I didn't realize how heavy things had become until someone helped carry them." That's not weakness. That's wisdom in action. Accepting help isn't surrender. It's strategy. Because when you allow someone to assist, whether it's climbing stairs, lifting groceries, or offering a steady arm, you're not giving up your freedom. You're extending it. And help doesn't only come from people. It comes from the small adjustments you make for your own safety and comfort. Installing a grab bar in the bathroom, using a sturdy stool in the kitchen, leaving yourself reminder notes on the fridge. These aren't signs of decline. They are choices that protect your dignity, not reduce it. After 80, courage looks a little different. Sometimes, it sounds like this: "I could use a little help." And those words, they're not a sign of defeat. They're proof of wisdom earned over a lifetime, the kind of wisdom that values peace over struggle, connection over isolation, and safety over pride. Number 4, a presence the world starts to overlook. One of the more difficult truths about life after 80 has nothing to do with aching joints or forgotten names. It's something far more invisible, the quiet fading of your presence in a world that no longer pauses to see you. At first, it's subtle. The cashier looks past you to the next customer. The doctor speaks to your adult child instead of you. A server assumes you can't decide what to eat. These tiny moments stack up slowly. And though they seem harmless, they settle deep in the heart. Because no matter how old we grow, we still long to be seen. When you've worked hard, raised a family, made sacrifices, and stood through life's storms, it hurts to be treated like your value has expired just because your pace has slowed or your appearance has changed. What makes this truth sting even more is that it usually comes without malice. It's just a fast world forgetting that slow footsteps still carry rich stories. A culture so focused on youth that it overlooks the wisdom that only comes with age. And unless you speak up, your presence may begin to shrink, not because your voice has faded, but because others stop listening. I remember a woman named Margaret, who was 83 and had volunteered for years at a small heritage center in her town. She had lived through the exact era depicted in one of the exhibits, yet one afternoon, when a visitor asked a question she knew by heart, the staff answered instead, completely overlooking her. Later, when I gently asked how she felt, she gave a soft smile and said, "I guess I've become part of the background." But in that smile was a quiet sadness, the kind that settles in when someone with fire inside is treated like fading wallpaper. But you are not wallpaper. You are not invisible. You are not a background figure in someone else's story. You are still here, still learning, still full of wisdom and depth. And just because others sometimes forget doesn't mean you have to. So what do you do when the world begins to look past you? You show up anyway. You speak even when no one asks. You share your stories even when people assume you've said enough. You vote. You write. You raise your hand. And you stand yes, even if your knees wobble, because every time you claim your space, you remind yourself, in the world I'm not done yet. You are a living library, a soul full of memories, a voice that still matters. You don't need to shout to be heard, you only need to stay present and refuse to disappear. If this part of the journey speaks to you, if you've ever felt unseen or overlooked, please comment the number 4 below. It's a quiet but powerful way of saying I'm still here. I still count. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support allows us to keep creating thoughtful, heartfelt content that honors your life, your wisdom, and your voice. Number 5, a sense of regret if purpose isn't redefined. As you journey deeper into your 80s, there's a shift that few speak about. It's not just in your body or routine, it's inside your heart. The house becomes quieter, the calendar emptier, and in those still spaces, thoughts begin to stir memories, reflections, questions. This quiet can be peaceful or it can quietly ache, not in dramatic waves, but in gentle, persistent nudges. The kind that whisper, "Why didn't I say yes more?" or "What was I waiting for?" At this age, people talk about wisdom, retirement, and the joys of grandchildren, but they often skip over the strange feeling of fading purpose. After decades of working, nurturing, solving, leading suddenly, no one seems to need your direction anymore. It can feel like the engine that once powered your life has gone silent. I once met a man named Harold, 86 years old. He had spent 45 years fixing broken things, first machines, then businesses, even family bridges. But in retirement, he struggled with something he'd never learned: to fix the feeling of no longer being useful. "It's not that I want applause," he told me. "I just want to feel like I still matter." And here's the truth, you do still matter. Purpose doesn't vanish with age, it just takes on new shapes. Maybe you no longer manage a team, but you offer wisdom through a story told at the right time. Maybe you don't volunteer every week, but you brighten someone's day with a kind word. Maybe you no longer chase goals, but you carry deep presence by simply being there when someone needs to talk. The danger isn't that we made mistakes, it's believing we've run out of chances to turn those experiences into something meaningful. But the truth is, your presence is still powerful. Your kindness, your insight, your very breath, it still carries weight. Purpose after 80 may not be loud or structured. It may look like baking cookies for a neighbor, or writing down your life story for your grandchildren, or waking up and saying, "Today, I'll choose to be gentle with myself and with others." And that is not regret. That's redemption. And it's never too late to find it. If you're still with us and this message touched something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Which part of this truth about purpose after 80 spoke to you the most? Comment below with number 5 or share a few words of your own. Your reflections might be exactly what someone else needs to feel seen today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to join our community. Your presence here helps us keep creating content that supports, uplifts, and honors this beautiful stage of life. Reaching your 80s is not just a milestone, it is a profound reflection of everything you've lived through. Decades of resilience, joy, heartbreak, laughter, change, and quiet strength have shaped you into someone whose presence carries wisdom that can't be rushed. But even with all that strength, aging brings challenges few prepare us for. Some are loud, like sudden health scares. Others are quieter, like the silence after a phone that no longer rings, or the way your name fades from conversations. We've walked together through 5 of these realities. Perhaps you saw yourself in the slow disappearance of your social circle, the friends who've moved on or grown quiet. Maybe you resonated with the ache of a body that doesn't rebound the way it used to, or the quiet discomfort of asking for help after decades of being the helper. Perhaps you felt the sting of invisibility when the world starts speaking around you instead of to you. Or maybe it was that lingering question, what now when purpose becomes harder to define? These truths may feel heavy, but they are not hopeless. In fact, naming them is the first act of reclaiming your power. Because once you see what's real, you're no longer at its mercy. You can meet it with strength, grace, and even gratitude. Even now, you still have choices. You can choose connection over isolation. You can honor your energy instead of resenting its limits. You can accept support not as weakness, but as a smart way to keep doing what matters. You can speak up when you're overlooked, and you can wake up each morning with the quiet courage to ask, how can I bring light into this day? This stage of life isn't about retreating, it's about deepening. Your steps may be slower, but your presence is fuller. Your stories hold history. Your patience has power. And your ability to choose how you show up every day despite it all is what makes you remarkable. So now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 truths spoke to you the most? And why? Please share your thoughts in the comments or simply write, I'm still here. Your words could be the encouragement someone else needs today. If you haven't subscribed yet, I gently invite you to join this growing community. Your support helps us keep creating thoughtful, respectful, and empowering content for every chapter of life. Thank you for being here. Your journey is far from over. In fact, this might just be the most meaningful part yet.